Coming up on Creating North of 55.
This is a community where you don't really need to find a place to slot in. You know, if people want to build something, they can just build it. You know, there's really this attitude. So she built this boys choir, and it just transformed my life to be in this. And it just changed my perception of what I thought was possible.
Welcome back to another episode of Creating North of 55 podcast. My name is Mariah. I'm your host. And today I've got my guest, Matthew Dalen. He's an opera singer, and he's the program manager for the Inspire Arts program at Northwestern Polytechnic. Welcome to the show, Matthew. How's it going?
It's going great. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, you bet. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What got you into opera singing?
Well, I mean, you know, I guess I grew up on a farm, and I was always singing for the cows. Okay. And eventually I thought, my gosh, I think I'm going to give people a try. This is going to be great. You know, we'll do it for the people, and maybe they'll like it. And some of them do. So I keep on doing it. They don't moo or boo. So it's all good. I started. I grew up in Grande Prairie, and I started up in the Grande Prairie Boys Choir at an early age. I was just fascinated with the sound of voices singing multiple notes at the same time. You know, you get a choir together, harmony just really like tickled my brain in a really fun way, I guess. So I really wanted to pursue that. And then I just kind of kept on going through with it. It just sort of felt right through the boys choir. And then I went to GPRC, which is now NWP, for my undergrad to start it up. Then I transferred to U of A. Then I did my master's at University of Toronto, and I've just kind of been working in the world ever since. And yeah, it's an interesting kind of world. And I think part of me, I picked it because of that. I think I was like, this is interesting to talk about, and then maybe people like it.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's interesting to talk about, but also from a young age, you told me a story about like hearing music through harmony for the first time. Yeah. And I was wondering if you'd be interested in sharing that with us. Yeah,
absolutely. So I went to school at Swanhaven, which we're not very far away from right now in these beautiful studios. Mm-hmm. And there they have a choral program. They had a choral program that started in grade 4. You had to be in grade 4 to see it. And I remember, or to sing in it. And my sister was a bit older than me, and she was singing in this choir at an assembly one day. And I remember listening to this choir, and I could not understand why the rest of the assembly wasn't losing their minds with how cool this thing was. It just, I didn't understand how it worked, that you could sing multiple notes at the same time, and this thing would happen that made you feel so much so quickly. It was like mainlining emotion into your body through the power of music and harmony, and I just was hooked. I just was like obsessed with what this thing was. So I had to wait for my sister. She would walk me to my grandma's house after school. We'd both go there together. So
fun.
Yeah, it was lovely. It was very idyllic and whimsical. But I would sit outside of the choir rehearsal, and I would listen, and for that time before we could walk home together, and I would just like fascinate about like, oh man, I can't wait till I'm in grade 4 and I can sing. Aww. And then it just sort of kind of went from there. I got to sing in the choir, and then the director of the music program there, she said, hey, there's this boys choir starting up in town. I'm going to put my son in it. Maybe you want to join. And I went into that. And Jeannie Purnell, who came here really just because her husband got a great job with the bees.
Oh, the National Bee Center. Yeah. Yes, out in Beaver Lodge.
That's right. So she came out to work with, she came out because he got this amazing job. And this is a community where you don't really need to find a place to slot in. You know, if people want to build something, they can just build it. You know, there's really this attitude. So she built this boys choir, and it just transformed my life to be in this. And it just changed my perception of what I thought was possible.
Wow.
And no. So then I just kept on going with that. And honestly, there's this moment, I think, for maybe not everybody, but for a lot of kids at the end of high school, where you have to figure out, like, what do you want to do with your life? Everybody's asking you this question.
That's the big looming question.
know,
Hey, it's so big for kids that age.
I know,
You
it's a
think
lot of
back,
pressure.
you're like, I was just a baby.
Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh, what a terrible decision I made. But I needed to upgrade my chemistry. I'd taken bio and physics, and I wanted to get an undergrad in just a Bachelor of Science degree. I was like, that seems pretty logical. This is what I see a lot of people doing. It makes sense to do that. So I'll just upgrade my chemistry, and just for fun, while I'm upgrading it, I'm going to take some voice lessons.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, it seems
Right?
like, this is fun. So I took some voice lessons from this great instructor, John Murray, and he said, I don't think you should do that. I think you should be an opera singer. And I was like, what's that? I had no idea. I was like, this is crazy. Like that's not a real job anymore. But he assured me it was. So then I went to the library, and they had DVDs of all these operas. And I remember one of them was La Traviata by Verdi, and one of them was Don Giovanni by Mozart. And I remember I was watching them because I was trying to figure out, like, well, which one am I? Who would I be on stage? So I was really engaged with it in a different way. And it just was so kind of overwhelming to me to see people on stage have to act and perform musically at the same time. Like, there's this theatrical and musical element. And I'd gotten to do a good amount of that in the boys' choir already, so I knew I really, really loved that. But there's something about that unamplified voice that just seems so seductive or romantic to me, in the sense that it was like an athletic pursuit, you know?
Very cool. And it just like snowballed from there. Hey, like that one person, it just took that one person to say, hey, I think you should explore this.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Like, and I think we all have like some sort of experiences like that. I mean, it does, in some ways it takes one person, but it also takes like a village, right? Like it took there being a great little choral program in elementary school. It took there being a great strings program at the time. It took every music teacher that kind of came across my path, and all these individuals, and every single one of them has a right to say to any of their students, it's just like, they created that moment of like, oh, I made this person maybe believe they could do something, And I think that's kind of a cool thing that we've had in this community, and that we're trying to kind of make sure keeps on going, is that we can, convince our youth to do some pretty crazy things.
Yeah. The unthinkable, the unexpected. That's what I really love doing, is I love doing things that people don't expect me to.
Yeah.
Keep them on their toes a little bit and do something that's out of the box, right? Yeah. I think that's incredibly important to kind of push those limits for myself anyways.
Well, yeah, because I'd imagine for what you're doing in this community, I like, people might say that this is a little unexpected.
Oh, yeah. I recently went to Calgary, actually, and I sat down. It was like picnic style. Like, it was a really cool vibe and place. I can't remember the place right now, but maybe we'll put it in the show notes if somebody wants to, like, check it out. But I met these people from Calgary. They had traveled all around Alberta, maybe working in different spots, and we were all introducing ourselves, and I had said, yeah, I own a content studio in Grande Prairie. And they're like, well, why? Why would you do that? And I'm like, well, actually, I'm going to reverse it on you. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Is the good question, I think. And so I really like to challenge those perspectives around what people think around Grande Prairie. And he goes, oh, it's a heavy oil and gas place, industry there. I said, sure, but there's people that live and create and do other things other than work in oil and gas. And I think that's a hard one to kind of push through the the glass ceiling a little bit, like to just be like, okay, that's not all we are here. There's really great people doing creative work and building community and helping one another.
Yeah.
I think that's a segment of what you might experience here in Grande Prairie.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think that like the reality is the reality. Like this is a very oil and gas town, and it has been for a while. But before that, it was agricultural. Then it was forestry, and really like in the history of this region, oil and gas is kind of new. It doesn't really matter what industry people work in. That is the thing that kind of bothers me the most about that assertion is that like, oh, people who want to make a great living for their families. They want to be able to buy a house. They want to do all the things to the best of their abilities, and they've decided this is the way to do it. Part of that transactional decision is that you don't deserve arts and culture. You don't want arts and culture. You're not the kind of person who's interested in this. That's why you've made this pragmatic decision. And I think that's really that's just like a very limiting belief that kind of comes from the classy folks. I think that there's, especially now with like podcasts and all these other things, like people are really, really passionate about telling their story, no matter what that story is, and people have very, very valid, interesting stories here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think we just gotta do away with that whole story around there's nothing to do in Grande Prairie.
Yeah.
There's no arts, there's no culture. I call bullcrap on it all.
That's
Sorry.
Right. Yeah.
I just do. And I don't think it's cool. I think, have you seen Erica Fisher's, like, what's there to do in Grande Prairie this weekend? It's like a mile-long list. I don't know how she does it, but, there's tons of things to do here, okay? And things to get involved in, things to get interested in, like opera, which, the seed was really planted through GPRC, NWP program back in the day, right? So that was where that program was happening for you?
Well, that was where like the awareness of it happened. I mean, it's very expensive to put on an opera. It takes a lot of people working together because you have costumes, you have sets, you have lighting, you need the space, you need stage management, you need the orchestra. You need somebody to go out and knock on doors to get sponsorship and like take donors out for dinners over years and years to convince them to leave them lots and lots of money. Like it takes a long time to get there. So really, like I didn't get to really see an opera until I went to U of A and kind of saw something at Edmonton Opera and kind of went from there to kind of really see it in person and experience it. But like the first thing was these people opening a door, saying like, hey, there's this thing on the other side and I think it would be good for you. And that's kind of what my career looked like. I mean, and I think that's how for a lot of artistic people and a lot of people in a lot of industries, that's kind of what happens is you just sort of, for me, I kind of took a path, which was you go to school and then you go to these things called young artist programs, which are the operatic equivalent of paid internships.
Okay.
So I got into really like some pretty good ones for that. I felt really proud of getting in. So there's this whole series of steps. I got into a decent master's program. Then I got into a decent young artist program and a resident artist program at Alberta, Montreal, and I got an agent and I kind of keep on working and stuff like that. But it's really interesting because this is how I think it works for a lot of people up to a point. You kind of get picked and then you kind of go. You ascend, you go to a place and you're like, this is the gravy train of my life. This is the rainbow road right here. I got, oh gosh, geez.
Big city living.
Yeah, no, I'm on the way. Next stop, New York, the big lights, is just like, this is how it goes. And I think, there is a little track that goes from like wherever you are, if you're really, really special and really, really perfect and really, really awesome. And, you do your laundry really nicely. flawlessly and you're all set. Maybe this is how it's going to work for you.
Yeah.
It's so exciting. It's just going to go all the way until you're like the biggest star in the world. But usually what actually happens is that goes that way until you reach this point. And that's where you actually kind of have to make good on all this potential people see in you.
Yeah.
And that's like a really exciting opportunity once you get over the terror of that realization. That maybe there's been like a little period where there's like this like immense kind of like, oh wow, this is gonna be so great what this person does. Like, okay, now we gotta see it happen.
Yeah,
And
it's got to be real and it's got to be realistic.
yeah,
right?
well, you got to create it, right? Like you have to be in charge of that. And I think you probably see this a lot with people who you've worked with in the community and even in your own experience of just like, you have to really take on the responsibility for your success, And I think some people are really afraid of that. So they want to find like a job, someplace where they'll just be safe.
Yeah.
Where they can just show up. I don't need to think about it. Nobody's depending on me. If I do what I'm told, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. But that's sort of not how life works to an extent. You kind of have to accept this certain amount of responsibility to feel really, really proud. And then there's all this great stuff that comes from that. So it's an interesting kind of balance in that world. I guess.
And it's a risk, really. Like you are pouring like everything into this passion area, and you can make it or not. You really like there's the two sides, and it's realistic, and you can have all the passion in the world, and that's the cruel part about life, right? It's like you might not, but it's so good to see people go on and do really great things and explore the world. And like where are the most interesting places that opera has taken you, in your opinion, like outside of this region? Say?
Well, I mean, I've gone to Italy before, and that was really nice. I didn't get that was a pay to sing, so I can't say that I got hired there. But it was really this really great experience in Sulmona, Italy. It was just a little program that I did in my undergrad, and it was so exciting for me to be in like this place where everybody spoke Italian and I was singing in Italian. So I got to understand that a little bit more. And I got to see people having an Italian disagreement outside of a cafe.
Oh my.
And it felt so Italian. It was just so great, and then it was so hot and everything was just full of passion. You kind of understood like why, like the Italian understanding of love. And, there's just this different sensibility. Italians are like, they're really hot and passionate, and they're quick to get excited in their music. They're quick to feel these really, really, just exquisite and hot emotions. And like German is just so much more pragmatic and so much heavier in a sense. It's so much more deliberate. And I think that love in German like art is kind of a little more. It's just as sublime. It's just as exquisite in its own way.
Yeah.
But the way that these things relate is very unique. And being in a place really helps you understand that. So I mean, Italy was great, but one of my favorite places that I got to go was St. Louis.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, there is an amazing company called Opera Theater of St. Louis, and there was just I remember that just being such an exciting time for me and such an inspiring experience, because the years I was there, the singers that were singing like the big roles in these operas were just the biggest stars in my career. And I got to like sit in the green room with them and like eat pizza next to them. Like for me, like I might as well have been like, I don't know, like sitting next to, oh my gosh, it's so hard to come up with somebody that's like famous,
right?
That's like, yeah, you got to remember what everybody's up to these days.
I know. There's some.
It's just like, oh my gosh, this was my favorite person. I might as well have been sitting next to Julie Andrews. I like Julie Andrews. She's very nice. Mary Poppins. She's great, right? She didn't do anything.
Mary Poppins, good,
I don't
right?
know. I don't know. Well, you know what? We'll find out. Whatever. It's okay. It still would be exciting, right?
be.
You know?
Yeah.
So whatever.
Anybody famous, really, when you recognize them. One time in Vancouver, I saw somebody that like played a part in Scary Movie, and I don't remember their name, but like it was exciting just to like walk by them, right?
It was thrilling. So for me, it was great because it felt like I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm next to this person. It's like maybe I am this person. Like I'm next in line. This is so good.
Right.
You know, I mean, I don't know if that's really the case for me anymore, but it was such a pivotal moment because it just changed what I could believe about myself. You know, I needed to see that in that moment. You know. But yeah, like so now it's that interesting thing of I could keep on just focusing on the singing, and then you get to a point where you're in your late 50s, mid 50s, maybe getting a little higher than that, and it's kind of like, okay, it's time for you to retire from trying to be the leading man in an opera now. Like you got to kind of do something else. So the options then are to be a teacher at a university. Mm-hmm. Or to step into administration. Maybe you try to like run an opera company or do something like that. And that's all really exciting. So, but in my brain, I thought like, okay, I could, keep on only focusing on this one thing, which feels a little bit kind of exhausting and sort of risky in the sense of you're not investing in these other aspects of your life, like community and family and all the rest of it. Yeah. Or I could just imagine the best of all possible worlds. What if like I just worked out of this community I'm from that I love, that, I still feel like I get a lot of love from, and I can invest in the music community there. I can still keep on doing gigs and, trying to grow my career. I can learn skills as a voice teacher. I can learn skills as an administrator and a producer. And, try to just like build this ideal life without waiting to see somebody else do it for the first time. And that's what I'm working on here, So I've got all these things, like I'm the assistant conductor of the Grande Prairie Boys Choir now. I've got this great opportunity with NWP. I got this really talented and cool girlfriend who's a visual artist, and I feel like I get to do maybe for others in the community what so many people did for me.
Yeah.
Isn't
it great to be able to give back to that? And I think it's so important too. And I know you going to the program at NWP through music and what that would have meant for, excelling your career to where it's been today. Mm-hmm. And so how did it feel for you to hear when a music program at NWP was kind of shuttered? It was kind of shut down.
Yeah. I mean,
how did it feel?
It didn't feel great. I mean, I guess officially I think it's on hiatus is the term. Yeah. But it was, I was really concerned, and it kind of like hit me like a little lightning bolt. I hadn't thought about it in a while. I was just like, I think I came home from rehearsal in Montreal one day, and I checked my phone and I got this email from somebody saying like, oh, like this is what's going on. I think I'd actually reached out to ask a different question, and then somebody said, oh, you mustn't have heard, this is what happened. Oh no. So I felt a lot of things. I kind of felt like, oh man, maybe if somebody had called me first, if I could have like, I could have gotten people marching in the streets. I could have explained how important this is, You
could have put up posters.
Exactly, I could have changed everything for everybody, and I'm not too sure if that's the case, but I emailed everybody on city council about it. I emailed everybody who was on the board. I really wanted to kind of like say that, hey, this is a big error. And for me, the big mistake was that when you cut a program like this, because maybe the reason that they had to cut it was because there was really, really low enrollment. Yeah,
it's got to make economical sense. Yeah. It still needs to run like a business in that sense, right?
Well, and and I mean, I so I can understand that point of view. I think the sad reality of that happening is that when you lose the program, you lose all of these professionals because they no longer have the ability to stay in Grande Prairie. It no longer makes sense for them to be here and create a little concert series of their own, to give private lessons to those kids like me who would have wanted to go on. And for me, like like I was able to do this because there was a music program in Grande Prairie. I had to work on the farm. I had to do chores. You know, it didn't make sense. I was not in a position where I could have just rolled the dice and left town at 19 or 18 to study this. You know, I needed to have that time and I needed to have that program there. Like, so I know for a fact that there are other kids like me who don't have that same opportunity now. And for me, that's something that awareness for me sort of like flipped a switch, where it was like, okay, well now I need to pay attention, and now I need to do what I can to make that possible. So I came back and I took over a concert series from Tina Alexander, who was a music professor at NWP. It was called Peace Region Music Series. She just did it on her own. It was not really affiliated with NWP. So that was just her thing. And then I took it over, and then I went to NWP to try and arrange something called a fiscal partnership.
Okay.
So that was it's this great thing for nonprofits that just fast tracks things.
Yeah. Sounds official and gets something done, it sounds like.
That's right. Yeah, no, I was moving and I was shaking. You know, people could see it. They could smell it on me. You know, oh gosh, this guy's trustworthy.
Big things.
Yeah, big
were
things.
Happening.
So I talked to them and I mentioned, you know, like I really think, you know, I understand that you have to cut this program because there's not enough enrollment. And it's how do you address low enrollment, you know, from the ground up? You know, to just throw in a new music program, I don't think that really makes sense when the track record and all reality says, well, you're going to have low enrollment.
Yeah.
So you need to kind of approach it where it's like, okay, how do we facilitate this reality where people understand what I only understood once I started in that program? That there's this whole world of performing arts out there. So we're starting with this concert series, and you know, with different initiatives, so that people can, there is this track, and then maybe, you know, we'll have some sort of, it might never look the same, but there will be some sort of track for people who are like me to kind of go forward and pursue this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's important to like keep that going. Do you think that the low enrollment is kind of this trickle-down effect from this perception, which is completely ridiculous, to be honest, that people can't see themselves as having a music career here, that they can't have a creative career path here? It's just kind of this, it's totally bogus. It's a bogus perception. People have done it. But do you think that's a trickle-down effect to like the enrollment numbers? Yeah,
absolutely. Like I think that you know, when you make a decision about like what are you going to do at that time, like we have this question and we talked about it like the end of high school, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Oh my gosh. There's a lot of things to consider. You know, you've got time and money to deal with, and you do not get those things back.
Yeah.
So you're going to look around you and be like, okay, what are other people doing and what kind of life do I want to have? And when you look around, you know, at the successful people or the people you admire in a community, you know, I don't think it was very easy to see super successful, you know, classical musicians in this neighborhood, you know, in this neck of the woods.
Sure.
So I think that might have been part of it. And maybe there is something about the value of that not being, you know, cherished or celebrated. And I could see that, but I think I feel a big shift in this. And I mean, I would be lying if I said I wasn't riding on the coattails of other people already in this community, like Sarah Card and the Folk Fest. That's huge.
Yeah,
huge.
They've brought in like a huge event to Grande Prairie, and it just sells out every year. It seems to just get lots of attention and bring huge artists here. And I got to work on their video team one time, and that was fun too. And giving people experience that way too is also huge.
Yeah.
Like,
what was your favorite part of that experience?
Well, actually, it was awesome because it was just after COVID, kind of. It was like that first show, and so they wanted to do a broadcast version of it live for folks.
Okay.
And so we had like headsets, and we had Gordy in the production tent, like saying, "Okay, camera 2, camera 1," and like so. I never had an opportunity to be part of that kind of production before, and that was super fun. So that was my favorite part is that, and I volunteered one other time.
Oh, that's
too,
great.
So
no, I think like for me, the thing that I saw there, I was like, oh, wow. Like I felt so proud of the community. And I could see everybody felt this thing. They're like, oh my gosh, we have this special thing that we all care about. And it just felt like everybody had so much excitement and so much love and pride around this event, even if they were just coming to see the show for the day.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, we're just so excited Grande Prairie has this now, you know, and I think that it was this thing of it was the right time, there was the people there, and for this project Inspire Arts at NWP, I think it's the same thing. It's just there's enough support in the community for it. It's just the right time. There's an opportunity here.
Absolutely. Well, tell us a little bit more about the Inspire Arts program. Like, plug it. Tell me all about it.
I'll plug away. Look out.
Yeah,
Look out. Here we go. So when I went to seek this fiscal partnership thing that we waxed on about, I was advised that, hey, instead of doing this, why don't we just hire you to do our own concert series? And I said, that sounds awesome.
Fun.
Let's do that.
Exciting.
Oh, it's great. I got paid. That's so cool.
Yeah, that's another thing about getting paid in this industry.
Yeah,
right?
It's amazing. No, I mean, that's the other amazing reality now. Like we said, giving back, but in a lot of ways, like I'm still mooching off this community. This is great. No, so hopefully, you know, I'm sure it's mutual. But so we started it and we kind of like discussed what would it look like? Like what would it need to do? You know, it needs to bring something that isn't already here in Grande Prairie. So with the Valentine's Serenade that we did on Valentine's Day, we went above and beyond. We piped and draped like this whole hallway, and you know, we made that recital hall like just look amazing. We got everybody a rose. We got everybody a charcuterie cup. You know, we did complimentary champagne. It was really, really fun, and people felt like, wow, this is a classy event. I brought in an opera singer friend from Montreal, a pianist from Nanaimo, and it was just great, and there was this great sense of community. So that was a big one to start, and now we want to do some great community programming. So we want to do stuff that's accessible as far as price is concerned, so people can kind of show up, and it's not like a big investment as far, you know, as like everybo's got to watch all their finances right now. Who knows? Yeah. And we want to make sure we keep on showcasing local talent. So at Valentine's Serenade, we got this great local cellist, Catherine Purnell, to be a part of the evening. She did a great performance. It was so exciting. And we want to keep on doing that. We want to make sure we're incorporating local musicians. So we give them a great performance opportunity, and everybody else sees this local musician shine on stage with these international professionals. So we also want to do kind of workshop opportunities. So these people who come into the community have the opportunity, the chance to share their expertise with local musicians and local artists and stuff like that. So the next one that we're doing is April 4th at 7:30 p.m. We're calling it Springtime Sonata because... I know.
A little energy to that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. This is where you play Beethoven's Spring Sonata because that's in the program.
Yeah.
And this is with pianist Derek Chu and violinist Kevin Lafore. And he's down from, he's going to be coming up from Portland area, I think. I think he's originally from Montana. And Derek's Steinway artist from Calgary. So it should be a really, really great program. And then the next day, on the 5th of April, we're going to do a public masterclass in the afternoon. So that's this is like the behind the scenes of like a movie. Like this is for the real music lovers or the aspiring aspiring musicians in the community. What a masterclass is you show up, you watch a small performance, like one song, maybe half a song from a young musician, and then the master in the class basically gives them a short lesson in front of everybody. Okay. Yeah, which is a really, really cool opportunity for everybody involved because everybody gets to learn, and these kids get a little performance opportunity, and they get to, it's not a full lesson, but we get some good tidbits from this person. So it's a really, really great opportunity, but it's also really important that we have this in Grande Prairie so people get to kind of see it and understand how it works, because it's a really weird concept like private lessons are private for a reason. It's very vulnerable. It's like really like, whoa, you're getting in there. I didn't understand when I did my first master class that this is how it worked. So whenever they like told me something to do, I was like, oh man, why didn't I think about that?
Yeah.
Why didn't I already know? I messed up. But that's not how it works at all. There's always so much to learn. Like I feel like in one piece of music, there's so many decisions that could be made. There's always something that can be better or more special. There's more gold to be mined in Mozart's sonata than there is in like all of Alaska. Like it's just there's so many decisions. So you get to kind of familiarize yourself with this, which I think makes an audience member a more invested listener when they go see a performance. Then they kind of understand, they know a little bit more. And it's for that kind of person who wants to see the behind the scenes footage, who cares about that. If that's like your kind of vibe in life, then that's the thing you want to go to, is the master class as well.
Neato. So if you have an interest in music, you want to attend that, where could people, is there a sign up? What's that?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, so the concert, we're going to be selling tickets, or tickets are on sale.
Okay.
At Bennett's, and you can find a link for more information at nwp.me/inspirearts.
Okay.
And you'll be able to buy your tickets for that. For the masterclass, we're just doing admission at the door. Super accessible. You just show up. We can only fit 150 in there. So if you're not one of the first 150, we'll let you stand outside and listen, I guess. But no, it's all about the accessibility for this one for sure.
Awesome. Well, that's wicked. And so just to kind of close out here, like, what do you think we can do as creatives, artists, musicians to bring back that sense of hope to our community, in seeing ourselves differently, kind of both internally and externally? Like, how do we get people externally involved, and internally, how do we change the narrative?
Oh, okay. Like, do you mean like regionally or like personally? Like how do we inspire others and ourselves?
Yeah, others and ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, how do we bring back that sense of hope? Because and inspire people to think that you can make it here as an artist and a musician and a creative.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing, and I kind of take a cue from this. From the visual arts community here, which I'm such a big fan of, like Peter von Tiesenhausen and all those people. They're really, really talented, and they've kind of created this life that you kind of can't question, because it's just sort of this manifestation of whatever they've wanted, like their real true self. Mm-hmm. Like, that's something I admire about that guy Peter, is that he lives his life, I mean, so as often as possible, from what I can see, in line with kind of who he is. And art is really just sharing these things about our lived experience that can't really just be explained in a conversation. You know, it's taking this feeling of what it means to be human. You know, and that can mean everything. That's your pain, that's your happiness, that's your joy, that's your yearning, that's your envy, that's all of it. And sharing that and realizing that these experiences that might make us feel isolated are actually things that make us all human. We all experience pain. That's the thing that shares, that's like universal.
Yeah.
You know, you should be lucky in your life to feel a little bit. And you know, the more we can look at these things and kind of cultivate that and decide, I'm going to go out to a concert. I'm going to invest in my community. I'm going to see what that local painter is doing. I'm going to see what that local potter is doing. I'm going to go to that open mic. I'm going to go see this local James Morrison or whatever guy do his concert. You know, like I'm going to choose to invest here, you know? And then I think people get to feel like they're a part of something, and then they can see, oh, wow, there's a way forward. And in our community, Grande Prairie doesn't do anything the way the rest of the world does it. We do everything our own way. So we're going to have, like, I believe we can have an incredible incredible music scene here, an incredible arts and culture scene. I have this dream that I really believe in, like in my heart, that this is so possible that you could be walking down right on this street here, on the street outside, and it might as well be Nashville. I really believe that, but it's going to happen on Grande Prairie's terms, in Grande Prairie's way. And there is just really no limit to what's possible here. This is such an entrepreneurial place. All of the kinds of people that aren't afraid to take responsibility and take action in their lives and make things happen for their community. We're swimming in incredible individuals like that here. You're one of them.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I appreciate that.
Oh my gosh, will you say anything?
Stop,
oh my gosh, I
blush.
won't. Oh my goodness. I think that's the thing that makes this place so special. And I mean, I love every community I've been in. I love everywhere I've worked, and they're all different. But there's something special about where we are from, where we live right now, that I think a lot of the community a lot of the global community likes to kind of write off.
Yeah.
Like we're kind of in the sacrificial zone,
Sure.
Like when people were checking out this area of the world, they were kind of like, hey, don't send people up to live there. Like, you can't grow anything. People can't live there. That's ridiculous. But people were living just fine up here.
Yeah.
And we're making quite a life, and I guess we get to decide what that life looks like. And that's what this whole thing's about.
Totally. I think that story just needs to evolve, but it's like that telephone, right? We just keep saying that same story over and over again. And now here we are in 2025. We're still hearing the same story. It's a lie, guys. It's a lie. Yeah. Come to Grande Prairie, make a great creative career.
That's right.
Just like Matthew Dalen has. And I just want to thank you so much for your passion in our community, because I really appreciate people who kind of stick their neck out, to be honest, and do something that's unthinkable or maybe unexpected in some kind of way. And you're definitely one of them. And I had my eye on you to interview you for a while now. So I really appreciate you being on the show. Is there anything else you want people to know, like where to find you online, or anything else you wanted to talk about on the podcast?
I mean, I love talking. Yeah. I love talking to you. You're a delight. So I could stay here all day.
I know. We might need some beverages.
I know. I mean, my goodness. Yeah. Well, we'll do that for the next one. We'll hot tub and nachos. I think this is the idea.
The budget's going to have to increase.
Yeah. We'll get some sponsors. It'll be great. If you watch this and you're interested in sponsorship, where can people get?
No, we don't have that yet.
If you wanna follow me or whatever, I'm Matt Dalen the singer on Instagram, as well as the bartender. I make operatic themed cocktails.
No way.
I know. I actually got paid some money to do that once upon a time. It was pretty sweet.
Another creative avenue for you. Well, next time I'm going to have you on about the cocktails.
Well, but I mean, if we do that, we got to do it next door at 92 Bevco. They're so good over there.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
One of my favorite places in Grande Prairie.
I want to, so I think that's where I'm going to take the next artists that come in here.
Oh, cool.
That's another part of this thing. Like, when artists come to town, I like to take them, I like to pipe and drape all of Grande Prairie, make it look real fancy for them, and be like, look at this, look what we got.
Yeah.
This is really special, Anyway,
look at us. Come to Grande Prairie. Check it out.
We'll come here to this lovely set. We'll have a hangout. We'll have some cocktails. Maybe I'll bring my next artist on. It'll be kind of fun. Hey?
Never know.
You never know.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And please, if you want to go on Spotify or YouTube and subscribe, we would love to have you as a subscriber to this awesome podcast, Creating North of 55. And we'll see you next time.